Hey there, it's Scott, startatherapypractice.com. I hope you're healthy. Hope you're back to work. Hope you're doing well. You know, I've seen an increase in interest of people in general really just wanting to start their own business, do their own thing, at least maybe a side hustle. And that also goes for therapists interested in starting their own private practice. I've seen an increase of interest in that area. Now, if you're interested in starting your own private practice, I have a free webinar coming up called Start Your Own Therapy Practice, like Start a Therapy Practice 101. So go to startatherapypractice.com/webinars and you can sign up for that free webinar. Now you have to attend the webinar live. I don't record the webinars. You got to be there in person live. And I do this webinar at least once a month. And I show up live, so I want you to show up live. And for everybody who shows up, you get a free super duper checklist that you can only get by showing up for the webinar. But let's get to the topic at hand. I have a friend of mine who's an economist, probably the smartest person I know, just super smart. You know, he's one of those guys. And he told me once, he said, you know, Scott, if I want to know something, I seek out a specialist. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm not going to go, if I have car problems, I'm not going to go to the salesman and ask them about why my car's not running well. I'm going to go as specialized as I can. I'm going to go ask a mechanic. And not only that, I'm going to seek out a mechanic who specifically works on my make and model. Because he's going to know. I'm going to shortcut all of this run around trying to find out the information that I need. I'm going right to a specialized source. And that's what we are. You and I are therapists, but we also specialize in something. You specialize in something, whether it's low back pain, whether it's feeding, whether it's sensory motor processing, whatever it is, you specialize in something. And we know that people are going to seek out our specialization. Now I'm going to bring this back on point here. So I did a consultation with a member of my Academy of Private Practice, and they were saying, Scott, I took over this practice from an existing owner, and they were doing paper progress notes. We're moving to an EMR. And I said, that's great. You're gonna love this. It's going to be a very good move for you. Now, EMRs all do the same thing. They're just databases, and they allow us to document our work, but it also does some billing and maybe some reconciling of that billing. They do the same thing, but in a different way. It looks a little bit different. Your EMR is going to look a little bit different from my EMR. Plus we have the same EMR, right? So what she had done is, she's the therapist. She's working. She's seeing more patients than she can actually see right now. So she assigned this task to get all the information into the EMR to a couple of her office workers. And she gave them a deadline. We have to get it done by this date. And I said, that's a great idea. But from a therapist perspective, let me suggest that you hold these two accountable. You've assigned them a date, and maybe you even trust them to reach that assigned date. But what I'm going to suggest is, because this is such a huge and important task, is ask them to tell you, all right, what times of the day are you going to work on this task? Are you going to dedicate just to this task? You know, are you going to dedicate from between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock every day on this task, and nothing else goes on except getting this EMR ready, because it's that important? And then to check up on them every day. Hold them accountable. Hey, did you work on this today from 2 to 4? How did it go? What's the progress? Because she didn't want to get to that deadline and then say, we've been working, but man, it's just not getting done. Everybody needs some accountability. All right, that's point one. So point two is, this process, any EMR is very confusing because it does a lot of tasks. It's holding a lot of information. There's a lot of turning gears in any EMR. And she's like, Scott, I'm just getting overwhelmed. It's just a lot to take in. And I said, yes, it is, but it's important. We really need for you to get this done. It's going to make a lot of difference in your private practice. And so I said, do they have any instructions that come along with this? Any training? And she said, yeah, there's some generic training, but it's just still not making sense to me. There's some things I'm not understanding. And I said, well, is there any advanced training? Do they offer any advanced training? And she's like, well, not that I know of. It's just, they give you the kind of the online manual. I said, well, why don't you call them, message them, however they, do messaging, and ask if they would do some one-on-one training with you. Now, maybe they don't offer this, but maybe they would be willing to offer it to you. Jump on a Zoom call and show you how to do some of these tasks that's really confusing, and then make sure, this is the important part, you record that Zoom video call, because then you can reference it. And she thought that was a really good idea, because what happens if you're just on a Zoom call, a video sharing call, and you're watching somebody else, do something on their computer, you're writing down all these notes. But what you want is to free your mind to ask the good questions and to follow along as they do that. So record that call, and then you can watch it later, then you can share it with other people also. So I do a lot of this in my private practice. I do some screen capturing in order to document tasks that I do, offload those tasks onto someone else. It's called creating systems. If you're interested in how I do that, go to startertherapypractice.com/SOP. So that's standard operating procedures. You'll see how I do that. The point being, my friend who said, I seek out specialists and I try to gain their knowledge. He's taking a shortcut. He's going kind of right to the source. You and I are asking our patients to do that, to come to us because we're specialists and we expect them to pay us for that. We need to understand that there are specialists out there willing to help you and I, and they have the answers. But we might have to ask them for the help, and we might have to be willing to let loose of a little bit of money up front in order to get a larger return, because this specialist is going to get a huge return on using this EMR and not using paper notes. It's going to be a huge return for her. So if she calls up and they say, no, we don't do one-on-one training. Oh, really? What if I paid you $100 an hour? Would you be $200 an hour? Is that worth your time? Somebody is going to jump on that and help you out if you're willing to throw them a little bit of money and ask nicely, okay? So that's your shortcut. Seek out the specialist. Be willing to let loose of a little bit of money and record all you can, all right? So don't forget about the free webinar coming up, startertherapypractice.com/webinars, and you can join me there. If you have any questions, email me, scott@startertherapypractice.com. Until then, Godspeed to you in your practice.